Hey everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we're going to take a look at Venus's upcoming trine to Neptune. Now, Venus is in the sign of Cancer right now, culminating in that sign, coming into those last degrees before it will shift into Leo. As it does so, it's making a trine to Neptune in Pisces. It's a nice watery trine between a very feminine goddess-themed Venus and transcendental, watery, oceanic Neptune. I think this is going to be a fun one. Uh, Certainly, this is nice as a contrast to Mars and Saturn in the sky this week. Mars Uranus coming out at the beginning of the month. So this is a more graceful, subtle, soft, sort of imaginative energy. And I think it's going to offer a nice contrast or kind of a buffer for some of the harder Marsy energies in the air. Anyway, before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm pick up the channel when you share your comments as well. You can always find a transcript of my daily talk on the website, nightlightastrology.com. All right, let's put up the real-time clock. Actually, first, let me give you the date of this transit. It's August 7th. Venus will trine Neptune. That is this Sunday. And we're well within the engagement range here this week. And so you can see I'm going to make some connections. Let's see, here's Venus. Here's Neptune, both at 25 degrees, and you can see them making a trine to one another. So trines are of the nature of Jupiter, very fluid and supportive, uplifting, trines tend to provide us with resources, allies, abundance, fertility, growth, super fertile transit in terms of things like pregnancy or the growth or success of something that you're trying to grow or develop under this transit. So some really positive things to watch for. But I'm going to share, as I have been lately, I'm going to share 3 themes and 3 lessons this week. So let's get into them. For this archetypal combination, I've got 3 themes to talk about and 3 lessons. The lessons don't come from me and my guruship. They come from, what I've heard people say and what I myself have experienced and what I've noticed students and clients experiencing over the years, what I hear you guys saying over the years. So, and not things I've mastered, things I feel like I'm continuing to work on. Anyway, so number 1 theme is a homecoming. Venus in Cancer, trine Neptune in Pisces can feel like, it's a little bit like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. There's no place like home. It has the feeling of taking us to a magical, otherworldly place, maybe a place that helps us to feel at home because the real world home is fraught with trauma. So it's like a home away from home, or the fantasy of home, the fantasy of the place where we feel warm, comfort, nourishment, relaxed, peaceful, and sensual. There's a sense of sensual gratification as well as restful, nurturing sweetness with Venus in Cancer. The trine to Neptune in Pisces makes it feel otherworldly and transcendental. So you're thinking about the divine sense of being at home. It's like peace in the Garden of Eden, like that song Woodstock. We've got to get ourselves back to the garden. A longing for home, divine home, heaven. In Krishna Bhakti, we talk about heaven is described, as Vrindavan, like a sweet country town where God hangs out with all the villagers all day and everyone's just drunk on ecstasy, living in some country town where there's good music and good food and like always divine play happening. Every culture on the planet, or many of them, have such ideas about a home beyond this world. And that home beyond this world might be a state of consciousness. It's also accessible in this world. But we make a distinction with Venus in Cancer and Neptune in Pisces, I think, between something mundane and literal, which is not feeding our soul. This bedroom or the room that I inhabit or the office that I work in or, the family that I grew up in, and the feeling of just, I don't know, just bad breath, like, ugh, I don't. And then, so a lot of us have that experience. And so naturally, we start imagining. You might If you don't like the way your house looks, but you don't have the means to change it, you may gaze at like a magazine of like beautiful interior decorations or homes that are beautiful or something. If you are a child grows up in an abusive family, may hide in your bedroom or in your closet or under the bed. When my dad was a kid, he had a physically abusive father, alcoholic, and he used to hide under the bed from him when he was drunk, so he wouldn't take it out on him. So when he hid under the bed, one of the things that he did was he went into fantasy worlds with his flashlight and books. And he told me when I was a kid, he gave me, there was a bed that I had, and it kind of had like I don't know how to describe it. It had like a trundle chest or drawers underneath, but on the backside there was like space under. So I would go under and I'd have a flashlight and read books. I didn't have a abusive home that I grew up in, but I remember even that for me was like I was going into another world, and it was kind of, it's like a little crab. I'm a Cancer sun, so of course Mercury in Cancer too, but you get the idea that the longing for some kind of fantasy world, a private fantasy wonderland, a place where we can go that we feel safe and at home and happy. There's a very like these kinds of moods and themes permeate the way that things go under Venus Neptune. Now that could be amplifying the sense that you don't have those things, or creating an environment that makes you feel like you're in a kind of fantasy. But either way, it's that sense of divine homecoming, a longing for something beyond. The second one is the mother fantasy. So Venus in Cancer, trine Neptune is like the daydream of a young girl who longs to be pregnant and have a child. Of course, that's not, of course, not everyone wants that, or that's not everyone's picture of femininity or anything else, but it is a fantasy. I'll tell you, like, I remember, my wife and I got together, and it was not too many years into it. We discussing getting married, and then it was like, we are planning for children, and you're signed up, and I was like, I wasn't ready as soon as she was. And then I got ready in part because she did such a good job of selling me on the fantasy of having a family. Very Venus in Cancer. My wife's a Cancer rising. And by the way, one of the things that one of the time in which we were planning for family happened when Jupiter was in Cancer in her first house. Isn't that surprising? So this idea of fantasies about home, children, I'm going to have a daycare in my home, or I want to be a child's teacher, I want to write a children's book, or anything that's kind of mother and children oriented, but has that sense of fantasy or art or imagination, decorating a child's bedroom, with, like, in our basement, we got some decals that have like, they're really soft, kind of pastel-y looking decals. They've got like trees and a sun and little bear, and we put them on the wall in their playroom. And it's like they have this little forest that they play in. This is all like very Venus and Cancer trine Neptune. It has that feeling of like reach into the sort of Cancerian imagination. What is the soul hungry for in that sweet Cancerian artistic or Venusian realm? Now, the fantasy of like, can't believe I'm going to say this, like the single mom who thinks that the pool guy who cleans her pool or her hot tub is hot, and they have a passionate affair. Pizza delivery. Oh my God. Fantasies about mothers, like literally sexual fantasies about mothers. So there's something that I think my wife calls it the pregnancy glow. I don't know if any of you women out there who are listening to this have been pregnant and know what I'm talking about, but she called it this, but I noticed it. And I was like, man, her skin, her hair, a certain stage in her pregnancy, I don't remember like what week it was around, but everything was just like glowing, like she just, to me, she was like, oh, she's hot. Like, so, and I'd mention that to her or whatever, and she would be like, yeah, it's the pregnancy glow. And second pregnancy, when she had our second daughter, it was like same thing. There was a stretch of time. And then of course, toward the end, it was like, this is not a fantasy. Get this thing out of me. It's like, I don't know, like week 38 or 9, so 38 or 9, something like that. So anything pertaining to the attractiveness or erotic erotic nature of, like, okay, there was a while ago, and I don't know if this is still a thing, but I remember at one point on social media, I was seeing this whole wave of people who were focused on women having orgasms while birthing. To me, that sounds like total crazy town. Like, okay, those are doulas with some tinfoil hats on. No, I'm just kidding. But it's a thing. It's a real thing. Look it up if you don't believe me. And for those of you out there who are well versed in this, who know this, please don't hate me for making fun. I truly am making fun. If someone can do that, more power to you. That's amazing. But there is a real thing about pregnancy and orgasms during actual labor. Blows my mind, but I think Venus and Neptune are also like the nostalgia of childhood. So it can extend into other areas that are sort of Venus and Cancer like. Now, Venus and Cancer trine Neptune can also be like idealization of things too. Like a lot of people idealize getting married or having kids. Turns out it's not so easy. It can be like a lot of screaming and fluid. You know what I mean? So yeah, but anything pertaining to the imaginal or fantasy world around women, children, babies, motherhood, yeah, things like that. Okay, anyway, that's my number 2. Number 3, a little bit deeper, it's the well. Now, in the I Ching, there's hexagram number 48 is called the well, and it speaks to that collective place that we all go. Like if a village can move, but the well can't. So, that's one of the teachings of that I Ching hexagram. What is common to a family, or what is common to an extended family, or a community, or a culture, or a group that everyone goes to draw sustenance or nourishment from? So I think questions about nourishment and the deeper resources that we draw from for the sake of happiness, harmony, and sensual satisfaction. Like, what do I need and what do I love? All right. So the well that we draw from, the deeper, the water here is a symbol for life and nourishment. And so what are the deepest wells that we need to draw on in fantasy, in art, in imagination, in love, in family, in home, in living environment? I think of those kinds of things being really important right now. Okay, well, 3 lessons that come with it. I think there's a lot to be said with Neptune and Venus combinations, especially when Venus is in Cancer, about forgiveness. Venus and Neptune trining one another have that sense of like, it's all good. Bring it in, everyone. It's all good. And I think that sometimes Cancers in particular are prone to saying, let me be the first person to start the reconciliation process. Like, let me reach out and nourish or nurture. But sometimes that's coming from, with Venus and Cancer, that's coming from a space of like, I just can't stand to feel like there's discord or hurt or tension. And so I think it's important as a Cancer myself to realize that that sense of peace, togetherness, harmony, forgiveness, smoothing things over, it really starts within. As a practice, we can practice releasing, healing, forgiving situations that are external to us, even if there are things that need to be done or said, or actions that need to happen external to us. If we can start that process within, it makes a huge difference, and it makes us more aware of why we're doing what we're doing. Am I doing this because I can't be peaceful unless everything around me in this external environment is in accord? Which may actually say something about our own lack of flexibility. So starting from within and just saying, how do I find peace in my own heart? And then again, if after doing that, I still see that things need to be said or done, then I can, but my peace is not overly dependent on other things or other people, which I think Venus and Cancer is a little prone to. So number 2 is there is no bottom to the past. Sometimes Venus in Cancer will say nothing can be healed until we get to the bottom of it. Like historically, like get 7 generations of karma. I'm going to do 30 past life regressions and clear it and cut chords and all this kind of stuff. And, I'm a believer in that kind of thing. I did some past life regression therapy with a friend not long ago and really enjoyed it. It was good. I've done a lot of that in ayahuasca ceremonies. So I'm not trying to say it's not real, but, but there's a concept in yoga philosophy that has meant a lot to me, which is the idea that, karma is anadi, which means that there's no real bottom to it. That when we think in a very linear sense, there was a beginning, or we fell, or we came here, or something like that. Like there was a starting point. And from this point of view, there's no starting point. It's just that things just have there's everything has always been. So it's like eternity is your starting point. And it's hard when we have an experience of linear time to think in terms of eternity. But one really helpful thing to do is to say, look, there's no getting to the bottom of pain historically or in past lives. It would be like trying to get to a time when fish who by nature swim in water were not in water. Do you know what I mean? And it's maybe not a perfect analogy, but it's like, no, this is just part of reality, that there's hurt and pain and suffering and imperfections and flaws and so forth. And it's, you don't get to the bottom of it in order to feel good. Not that digging in the past can't be fruitful as its own archetypal activity, but it is an archetypal activity. And one, if we take literally, like, oh, I've got to get to the past and get to the bottom of all of this stuff in my childhood or so many past lives or whatever, that there is eventually like a very futile, it becomes very futile because you can just dig endlessly. That's a part of yoga philosophy that's always meant a lot to me, because it helps me know that when I'm digging into the past, like, it's purposeful, and I don't ever have to feel like I've gotten to the bottom of something. Just in case that's helpful for you guys. 3, home is where the heart is. So ultimately, if we have fantasies about feeling at home, feeling nourished, feeling like we belong, if we have fantasies about what feels good and secure and safe, but also warm and sweet and satisfying, one of the easiest ways to feed ourselves with that kind of material, that kind of sustenance, is to pay attention to the heart. When we pay attention to the heart, we can understand its disposition and we can understand what it likes. And giving our heart what it likes as a practice is far simpler than most people think. It's like, actually, the more you get in touch with your heart, the more you realize its appreciating capacity is so vast, so special, so sensitive, but strong, that it doesn't take a lot for the heart to really rejoice or delight in things. Like, it doesn't have to be super, it's not like a big, super complex thing to take care of the heart. At first we think it is, because it's like, well, the head is the one who has all the requirements, and we're shifting to the heart. And it's surprise, surprise, the heart just wants us to love simple little things moment by moment and to take joy in them. And it's like sunshine, it's free and easy. And so if we want to feel at home, if we want to feel nourished, I think a lot of it boils down to recognizing it's a cliche. Home is where the heart is. If you can locate your heart in any given moment, if you can just, how am I feeling? What am I needing? And, then you can start to parent, the voices that come up. Like, I need chocolate. It's like, okay, well, maybe a little bit of chocolate then, let's not go crazy, but like, let's have a little joy and have some chocolate. You know what I mean? And the more we ignore those voices, the more unreasonable they become. The more we tend to them with care and a kind of a little gentle, almost like a gentle, all wise, higher self knowing, take care of the heart, it becomes strong and robust, and its requirements are so light. So anyway, home is where the heart is the third thing I have to say. Not sure how much any of that made sense, but I hope some. The sun is shining here today, and one of the things that I've been loving to do this summer is been going out and laying in the sun. Just makes me so happy. It's such a simple thing. I can go out for like 15 minutes. If I just sit or lay in the sun for like 15 minutes, it's like filling a gas tank, an invisible gas tank. I don't know. That's just me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share your comments, click the notification bell for updates. Transcripts of my daily talks can always be found on my website. Every single day, you can find a little written version of this stuff if you want to read it. All right, that's what I've got. Hope you guys are doing well. We'll see you again later.